All right, so we have our class today. We'll shoot a video in. We'll go over chapter 10 and hopefully start the, if we have enough time, start the final exam review quiz, and then we'll continue it on Monday. So this coming Monday here, we'll also shoot a video then as a review. The next Wednesday, though, there won't be any video that we shoot. I'll treat it as office hours, and also this Monday for the in-person students, that'll be office hours as well at the special exam time. As if we were doing the in-person exam. It's all online, of course, as you know. All right, so let's continue talking about chapter 10. We went over the ideas of chapter 10. We did some example questions. I do want to go back for a second. I just want to snag it just in case we need it. We went over the example for transfer prices. So let's make sure we go over a question or two for transfer prices, and then we can kind of take an assortment of a couple different chapter 10 questions and make sure that you get questions asked that you have about chapter 10. So let's go down probably towards the second half of the quiz is where the transfer price questions are. Oh, here we go. All right, so here is a question in a different font. I don't know. Is I feeling especially small in this moment? It's a smaller font. I don't know why. Sometimes when I move things around, when they were copied over from Blackboard to Canvas, or when sometimes they end up in a weird fonts or I don't know. At least it's not as bad as Qualtrics. When you're playing around creating Qualtrics things, all of the normal arrows to move around inside text boxes, they don't work. You can't do control arrow and move by word. You have to push and hold the arrow like we're in a DOS program or something. It's pretty annoying. So this question is asking us, which of the following is the maximum negotiated transfer price for the valve? So there's going to be some sort of valve, and it looks like we have information from the buying department right here. So a production department can purchase a particular valve from vendors outside the company at a market price of $1,000 per unit. And then we have a bunch of information about another production department, the selling, which is going to be the selling production departments. So this is supposed to be the assembly division. I need to name that. Let's fix that make a note to fix that, make it clearer what exactly that question's asking. I knew it was suspicious when I saw the font. All right, assembly division. If I search for that, I'll be able to find it. But a bunch of information about the selling department is right here. That's producing the valve and then selling it to the other department, which is the buying department in this first paragraph. Now, anybody recall how you determine the maximum transfer price you might negotiate? Yeah, it's just the buying department's $1,000 market price, what they could buy on the outside market. Yeah, the buyer sets the maximum price, the seller sets the minimum price. So that's wow. Okay. Record time, despite me making it take longer than it should. All right, this one here is asking for a minimum. Okay, we do have to use our trusty P equals F over Q plus V, understanding what V we're using in which instance. We're going to figure out what the minimum transfer price negotiated is, and we have an option here of no transfer price possible. This is called the Jeep answer choice. Anybody seen the Jeeps with the little thing on a little cover on the back tire where it says no problem, and upside down it says problem? You know, because if the Jeep's upside down, then it's a problem, right? It's the idea. That's when we would click this. If the ceiling is higher than the floor, no. If the floor is higher than the ceiling, there we go. That's a problem. Yeah. Then we can't. We couldn't, at least there's no economically feasible transfer price. The negotiations would have to be determined through some other means than what's inside the economically feasible band. So that's when we would click that, if the floor is higher than the ceiling. And we have the ceiling right here, in this sentence right here. We have a buying department, and this is more clearly labeled than the other question. A buying department, and we also have a selling department, so it's very, again, clearly labeled. So 125 is a ceiling. All right, so if we end up and our floor is higher than 125, we know that we should pick the Jeep answer choice problem because it's upside down, the floor higher than ceiling. Now, the selling department has this data right here, which is, again, I formatted this okay. This is not too bad. We have our market price, which we'll need to figure out unit contribution margin for lost sales. We'll need that for the selling department's market price. We need variable selling/distribution costs on external sales. So these are variable costs the selling department has to incur to sell outside. So that's going to be taken away from that 148 as we determine the unit contribution margin of each unit we sell externally. We have variable manufacturing costs, and that's V in the equation, and we have to use it subtracted away from this 148 as in addition to this to figure out the unit contribution margin for units sold externally. So this is floor, transfer price, question. We have ceiling, 125. Hello, numlock. There we go. And now we have all this floor stuff down here. We have market price for the selling department of 148. We have 10 is our variable external costs. We have 75, our variable internal costs. So I'm labeling it this way. They'll be labeled a little often. Internal will just be called manufacturing cost. But the idea is when we manufacture it inside our company, this is what we're going to have to incur. And then we have this 35 fixed manufacturing cost. Should we include that at all? Sounds I'm tempting you here, aren't I? This is a trick. Now F is in the equation, Professor, right? F is fixed cost in the equation. We're going to ignore this. All right, the fixed manufacturing cost, the fixed overhead and other costs, we get to ignore that because we simply want to know how much the minimum kind of variable opportunity cost is going to cost us as a selling department to supply the buying department. That's the minimum we would negotiate for, and we get to ignore this. Okay, so we're gonna ignore these. The only fixed cost we're worried about is the fixed cost of accepting the order from the buying department, which is the lost contribution margin from lost sales. That's our fixed cost that we're worried about. Now Q in our equation here. Let's add a row here. We want P equals F over Q plus V, and we're specifically saying internal V, this V right here. And Q, 20,500. That's how much the buying department wants to order from us. We have excess capacity to fill 5,000 units of that demand, which means that the remainder, this we lost unit sales if we supply the buying department. I'm putting it in terms that let you just transfer over your Chapter 3 knowledge. Basically, this selling department is treating the buying department as if they're making a special order. They might be trying to negotiate a lower price. What's the floor of the price we can give them? They're making this special order compared to external sales. Now, not all companies do this. Not all companies have an earlier selling department that also has an external market for its goods. A good number of companies do have, there's an external market. You have a car company, for example. You build cars, of course, but some of those parts, you want those original equipment parts out and you sell them to parts stores. You sell them externally. So the department that puts together those gaskets and those valves and those parts, they're going to have some external sales. A good number of companies do this when they have something that has constituent goods, constituent parts. They build those parts and then they put the parts together. Sometimes those parts themselves have external external markets. And so they have to make decisions like this, or at least this is useful to make decisions like this. All right, so this is our lost unit sales. Looks like we do a lot of business. This selling department does a lot of business externally compared to what is demanded internally. We only have 5,000 excess capacity from our external market. So that's a lot of lost sales. Let's figure out how much each one costs us. Our unit contribution margin is revenue minus variable cost, right? All the way back to chapter 3. Revenue per unit minus the variable costs for external sales. So we're going to subtract away all the variable costs for external sales. Sorry, I just labeled this unit CM and parentheses for external sales. So we want to make sure we take away all variable costs, including those that are external. So we're in total subtracting away $85 from this $148 selling price to get $63 unit contribution margin, which means that if we lose 15,500 units, we've lost in total $976,500 worth of contribution margin from taking on the entirety of the buying department demand. All right, so that's our F fixed. That's the actual F variable here in the equation. So let's put that equation into practice. F divided by Q plus our internal variable costs, our manufacturing cost. That's how it's usually labeled in the problems, variable manufacturing cost. And we end up with $122.63, which rounds to the nearest dollar of 123. Is that okay? Hopefully it's not too alien since we did go over chapter 3 stuff. You know, we've been here. Maybe we need a refresher here and there, but hopefully it's not too crazy. All right, we didn't have the Jeep problem of a floor higher than the ceiling. Those are the two. So it's 123. There's a very narrow band to negotiate this transfer price. So driven by the fact that the buying department has some pretty good deals. They can get this input for a pretty cheap price compared to what the selling department's selling it for, or the selling department does a really good job in such that the external market really highly demands. Maybe that price is mostly reflective of the selling department making really good products, and so they have very little excess capacity given all the demand that's external. So as a company, we probably would want to, this would be a signal to us that says we should maybe think of restructuring things, increase our capacity, for the selling department, because we have a secondary line of business here that's really thriving, or figure out a way to get these more closely tied together, or maybe even just go and spin things off, because our buying department can get this input at a decent price, a pretty low price, comparatively almost at the same floor price that the selling department would sell it at, and our selling department seems to do pretty well on its own. So we might think about the theory of our firm and our structure as a result of this kind of calculation. All right, which of the following is a downside of a negotiated transfer price? All right, so is it a downside of negotiated transfer price that negotiated transfer prices are unaffected by the selling department's capacity? Is that true? Was this number here affected by this excess capacity? Yeah, we had to include it in our calculations. So this is not true. This is not a downside of negotiated transfer prices because it's not true. Negotiated transfer prices can be unduly influenced by managers' social status or personality traits. I'm going to put a pin in that. That might be true. That might be one of the downsides. In fact, we're calculating something very economic and numerical, quantitative specifically, in terms of the price floor and ceiling, but where it lands within that range can be affected by, I'm the CEO's nephew, so I get to have the buying price really high or really low. Maybe this is social status or personality traits. Maybe this is true. All right. Is it true here as a downside? There is no downside to negotiated transfer prices. No. If we look in the textbook, this isn't the case. In fact, to give it away, this is one of the downsides mentioned in the textbook. Negotiated transfer prices cannot incorporate the opportunity cost of selling department. Well, we just did that this is us incorporating the opportunity cost of the selling department, including this number right here, this F over Q. So this is untrue. It's incorporated in the fact that negotiated transfer price has to fall within this above the floor, and the floor incorporates the opportunity cost. So this has to be the right answer here. All right. Now this is a very similar problem to what we just did, phrased ever so slightly differently, but still very much the same. In fact, I'm going to copy over our information and see if we can't just update our equations here. So, second floor transfer price question. The buying department buyer, I named them, department buyer can purchase the part on whatever this part is we're talking about on the external market for $100. Okay, so that's our ceiling. The department seller has insufficient capacity. They have, department buyer wants 500 units, and we have if we're the seller, have no excess capacity. Okay, so Q is 500, and excess capacity is 0. So we're going to lose all, in order to supply the buying department, we'll have to kick out all of, or 500 worth of lost units, kick out 500 units worth of paying customers. All right, so let's update these 4 variables right here, including the one we ignore, just for fun. Oh, is there anything else we need to incorporate? I don't think so. Got the market price. So we're going to kick out 500 units worth of customers. Our unit contribution margin is 108 minus the 50, which is the sum of these two. So we end up with 58. That makes sense. And so $58 of contribution margin lost per unit sale lost times 500 unit sales that are lost to fill the demand from the buying department gives us $29,000 of lost contribution margin. That's the F in the equation. Our quantity is 500, and so 29,000 divided by 500, which is this first bit right here, plus our internal variable cost, which is our variable manufacturing cost of 40, gives us 98 as the floor price. So, once again, very, very narrow window we've created here for this transfer price. The floor will be 98, should be $98 there. Now, if this question instead had said the department seller has sufficient capacity to fill all 500 units that are demanded by department buyer, could we cut a corner and make this very simple for us? Do we have any lost contribution margin? Right, so F is 0. The floor price is just going to be the variable manufacturing cost in that case. In that one case, you just say, oh no, floor, just variable costs. The internal variable costs here. It would be 40. Okay. All right. Again, very similar. Maybe we can copy things over. We don't have information about a ceiling. Well, no, we do. It's just placed differently in the question. Let's do third transfer price question, since I think we can do it pretty quickly. Just copying things over. Our ceiling is $46 because the electronic assembly department can buy them these units externally for $46 each. The market price, the selling department, the fabrication department in this case, right here, can produce them for is $48. $5 external variable cost for external sales, $21 for internal variable costs, variable manufacturing costs, and $10 of fixed manufacturing costs. We can ignore those. Looks like the demand is 4,500. We have excess capacity to produce 5,000. So we're going to do max of this minus this or this. Oh, wait. That's not quite right. I'm going to do max of 0 or that minus that. There we go. So the idea is, since we have more excess capacity than they're demanding, I don't want a negative number here. So it can go down to 0 because we have no lost sales. They want 4,500. We have 5,000 extra capacity. We can completely fill their order. And so sure enough, the floor price is just the internal variable cost, $21. So I kind of jumped the gun, and that's the very same question I was hypothetically putting into the earlier. All right. All right. You want to look at some more of the service department cost allocation questions? All right, we'll try at least a direct. And yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that was one of my favorite fake company names. You know, it's like Forever 21, but for toddlers, Forever 2.1. Yeah, they're not going to hire me for their marketing. Okay, here, there might be a few of these questions. Is this? Yeah. This looking similar? Okay, so this is a transfer price. We'll do this one, yeah. And then we'll go to some service department cost allocations. All right, so, well, this one's asking for maximum. Is yours asking for a minimum transfer price? Maximum. Yours is maximum? Okay, so what we need to do is we're looking for the ceiling, the maximum, in which case we need to find if it tells us what the buying department can buy it on the external market for. And I think, let's see, we have cutting department and sewing department. Cutting provides or sells to the sewing department. So cutting is the selling department. Sewing is the buying department. So the sewing department can purchase it on the external market for $1.70. So this problem is just as simple as that one, that right there. If it asks for minimum negotiated transfer price, we'd have to go through, I guess not that hard. We could copy over. Might be giving away the game here that this is pretty simple and consistent. We have market price of 1.75. It's down here at the bottom, though. We have, 1.7 is the ceiling for the buying department. Right here is 1.75. And then we have variable manufacturing costs. Oh, here we go. External. So I've mixed up the order in which I'm presenting these, just to be confusing to you. Department needs 150,000 yards. That's 150,000 units is Q. 100,000. 100,000 is excess capacity. So we're going to lose 50,000 yards worth of fabric, external sales of fabric. Our unit contribution margin is $1.75 minus looks like 40 cents, which ends up being $1.35 per unit. So that $1.35 per unit times 50,000 units gives us $67,500 in lost contribution margin. So our floor is going to be that 675 divided by 150,000 plus the variable internal costs, variable manufacturing costs, as I say in the problem always, and totaling 60 cents there. So 0.6 would be the floor. If it were asking for minimum, it would be this one right here. Yeah, so there I am. The me that I am. I have the minimum in case you went through all the trouble of doing that because you misread what it was asking. I have it available there for you. Does that work? Is that good? Okay. All right. So here's a step down question. I got an email today about this. I think this same question. So I remember what the correct answer is. But let's go through it together. So at the end, it's asking for A to Y. So step down question 1. We need to know A to Y. And B's costs are stepped down first. So some of B's costs are going to hit A. So we need to know B to A. All right. Now what I can do is I can grab all this and I can copy it over and I can add, I don't want all that. I want this. Get rid of that merge cell. It's throwing me off. And I can add a column here and put in 400,000 and 90,000. Now I got all the information from the problem right there. Okay, so B here, does the allocation first. It's the top step department, so it's going to allocate all $90,000 to everything that has a number here. So 100 over 300 of that, so 1/3 of it is going to go to A. So we have 30,000 credit to Department B and debit to Department A. So now Department A's costs are 430,000. That's the best label I've ever written. So nice. So now we have enough that we can start worrying about A to Y. Trick here is we need to make sure we don't include the service A does to B, because B is the top step, A is the bottom step. And so as A is allocating, it can't allocate up step. It can't go, can't flow uphill. It's only able to allocate to any down step service departments, which there aren't any, but if there were, it would down step service departments and production departments at the bottom. So in this case, it's the last in the rung. So we're going to refigure these numbers. We're going to figure percentage of these based on just production departments here, excluding this 100 units of power, this 100 kilowatts of power, kilowatt hours of power done to B. We're going to act like that didn't happen. So instead, we're going to say, well, Y consumed 150 kilowatt hours out of the 400 kilowatt hours we're pretending are the entirety of Department A's work. And so we end up with, this is the percent allocated to Y, percent of A's costs that need to be allocated to Y. And so we can multiply those two, and that should be our A to Y allocation. Whoa, wrong arrow. So this here is our B to A. So we solved for it. I organized this differently than I did on Monday. Hopefully I cut out a few extra steps, made it a little simpler, copy and pasted. I didn't have to create this cell here. I could have calculated that in the cell here and just, I could have said 90,000, or excuse me, I could have said 100 divided by sum of these four, D8 through G8, all times 90,000, would have gotten the same thing. So you can collapse one extra step there. Yeah, Jesse. Yeah. If it's asking for, for example, if we're asking for, what if B to X? So here, B is the top step one. So you said in the middle. You mean the top? Yeah. Okay. So I didn't think I had any problems where there's like a middle. I don't think I have any that have three, if I remember right. Just the top one though. So in this case, B is the top step. It's allocated first. And so what we need to do is we just need to find B to X. We don't care about anything with regard to what A does. I said A, so I typed A. So what we need to do is we need to take simply this 250 over the total amount of work done. Oh, excuse me. This 80, we take this 80 over the total amount of work done. So 80 over, it'll be 400 in total. So 80 divided by sum of these will be 80 over 400, which is 27% it rounds to. And we can multiply the 90,000 here by this, and we get $24,000 going to X. Is that all right? This is the percent B allocates to X, right? So this is B to X in dollars. We can make it nice, pretty dollars. Yeah. Okay, that's a little simpler. It's we have to remember. So to keep it straight in your head, when you have to make sure you're in step down version of how you solve these problems, and you only need to do. It's one fewer step in the sense that you don't have to get the top step to the bottom step first, like we did here. But you do need to make sure you've distinguished it from direct method, because direct method you have to refigure the percent of work done for the production departments by ignoring any interdependency here. So that's where you could trip up, I think. All right, move forward. Okay, a firm has multiple production departments and multiple service departments. The service departments provide some services to each other. Okay, so we have the typical setup of throughout the book here. Some interdependency between production departments and between service departments, I should say. Which allocation methods, methods, can provide different allocation numbers depending on the order in which. Wait, we did this one. This very one. Okay, I'm skipping it then. All right, let's see. We want to know B to Y, and B is step down first. So this is very much what we did before. So it's going to be this 80,000 times, where's to Y? 200 over the sum of these, which is 500. So that's 200 over 500, 2/5, 40% of $80,000 here, which will be that. So you can do them relatively quickly if you can filter out the unimportant information and know which things specifically to divide. Do you want me to write that one out in the Google Sheet? No? Okay. I won't. All right. Now this one is one of the few where I want to see if you can stop here. In case you tend to forget what to do after that, I'm giving you points in case you can get right here. So we just want to know the percentage of maintenance department labor hours that are consumed by the power department. So we have maintenance department here, department B, and we have power department. So B serves A 250 hours. What percent of that is what percent is that of department B's overall work? It's 50%. This is that no harder than that. That's it. That's all we're looking at. I don't even think I could have tried to be real sneaky and talked about, oh, well, they use the direct method or they use the step down method to try to trick you into saying, oh, well, I have to change the percentages accordingly. I'm just asking, change this into a percentage because it is a component part of solving these problems, being able to take, this over this changes it into a percentage. This over this changes it into a percentage. Okay. Don't overthink these problems. Oh. All right. A firm has two production departments. I think this is our last. Yeah, this is our last service department ones. Two production departments and two service departments. Which of the following is true about service department cost allocations? Is it true that if the two service departments provide substantial services to one another, i.e. interdependency, then the direct method of allocating costs would be the least accurate method? Oh, well, that does sound true. Okay, well, let's think that might be the right. In fact, we can pre-select. Let's select here, but check the others just in case. All right. Is it true that if the two production departments provide substantial services to one another, then the step-down method of allocating costs would be the least accurate method? No. We don't have anything about service department allocations that depends on whether the production departments provide services to each other. The only way in which production departments tend to provide services to each other is that they tend to pass input parts like we talk about in transfer prices. So this has nothing to do with service department cost allocation. So this is not right. Is it true that if the two production departments provide substantial services? Oh boy, okay. Again, I'll just stop right there. Doesn't matter. The production departments aren't what matters. It isn't what creates the interdependency. It's the service departments creating interdependency. If the two service departments provide substantial services to one another, then the step-down method of allocating costs will be the least accurate method. That also is untrue, but not because we don't have interdependency with that first clause in the sentence. It's the second clause. No, the step-down method is more accurate than the direct method if we have interdependency, because it is at least accounting for some of the interdependency by allowing you to allocate to down-step service departments. All right, so that one stays the true answer there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we answered 4. I didn't check our right answers last time. Shoot. Okay. Did I answer more than 4? We did answer more. We answered one of the transfer pricing questions. We answered 5. We got 5 points worth. All right, let's find direct method. All right. Does this one work okay? As far as you can tell? All right, so the question stem here says, using the direct method, what is the service department cost allocation from B to Y? All right, this is our direct method problem. We need to know B to Y. All right, using the direct method, we're going to take B's costs, 80,000, and we multiply them by, this is Y's consumption. And this is total production department consumption. Just adding these two together, 250. And so percent of Y's consumption out of total production department consumption. If I could spell it. It's simply this 200 over 250. So we get 80%, 0.8. So 80% of this 80,000 is what we're going to allocate to department Y from department B. So what we've done is by making the denominator just this 250, we've done what I say we do in the direct method, which is to ignore this interdependence. We're going to act as if this is 0 and make a new denominator of 250 here and create a new percentage of 80% instead of what it was in the full percentage table here. If we had just total percentages here, it'd be 200 out of a total of 500 here is what this sums to. So Y, when we start out, Y is 40% of the work done by B. But with the direct method, we're going to act like it's 80% of the work done because we're only accounting for production department work. So 80% of that $80,000 is going to go to Y, giving us 64,000 as the right answer there. Okay. Looking forward to Friday when you're done with quizzes, the chapter level quizzes. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Yeah. We haven't done many of the open answer sort of ones. Let's see. I didn't pull any. Oh, the service departments, right? Okay. Let's find one. Oh, okay. Let's see. Can I get back to that quiz? Oh, wow. That's weird. Shh, you didn't see that number down there. I saw it right before we left. Okay, yeah. Okay, so here's this one work well? Okay, great. All right, so ignore that the right answer is right there. The question stem asks for the price floor here, and we're going to round the final answer to nearest cent if necessary. So we're going to focus in on since it's floor, we're going to focus on the solar department here, and we have the solar department's information, the primary information here, and then information necessary to figure out our capacity costs here, our opportunity costs due to limited capacity right here. So let's start copying down. Let's copy down our same procedure here. This is our open answer floor transfer price question. So yeah, I can notice, looks like we're negotiating transfer prices. We have a seller and a buyer department. Buyer department uses a key input from the seller department. Obviously, buyer department can buy it on the external market for 110. So that's the ceiling. If we were asked about the ceiling, that's what it would be. I had every intent when I wrote this right here that I would reference, I'd be like, oh, this is the floor, but I never did. All right, whatever. All right, so this seller department assigns the following per unit costs to each unit of producing this input. Okay, pretty clunky. Maybe make a little change to that, kind of clarify that. All right, so we have direct materials per unit, $20. Direct labor cost, $29. Variable overhead, $21 per unit. And fixed overhead, $14 per unit. So we're just going to worry about the variable ones of these, which by definition, or you can memorize this, are just these three right here, just like as if we were doing chapter 8 stuff. Variable costing, yeah, would be just direct materials, direct labor, and variable overhead considered variable costs. So these three together, the sum of these three is like our variable manufacturing costs right here. So we have 20 plus 29 plus 21. And we have 14 here for variable manufacturing costs, but it doesn't matter too much. We don't have listed here anywhere an indication of a variable external price, external cost to us. I don't think there's any indication that we're going to be incurring additional variable costs selling externally in this particular problem. So I'm going to put that as 0. And it says down here that we sell them selling department sells them at $97 per unit on the external market. All right. The buyer demand is 700. So that's the Q right here. That's how much they want us to produce. And we have, I've given you here the total capacity of the seller department, not the excess capacity. So the total capacity is 1,000 units, and the external market wants 500 units, and that's their demand. So the excess capacity is going to be the difference between those two. The 1,000 total capacity minus the 500 units of that capacity that are taken up by external market sales. So we have excess capacity of 500 units, which means that to fill our buyer demand of 700 units, we're going to have to kick out 200 units worth of these customers, which is what it says right down here in this cell. So our unit contribution margin is this market price minus the variable internal cost, which we got by summing direct materials, direct labor, and variable overhead. So $27 per unit. We're going to multiply that $27 by the 200 units that we've lost to get our total loss contribution margin of $5,400. And then we're going to take that $5,400, divide it by the 700, and add that to 70. So we have F over Q plus internal variable costs. Don't want to break anybody's eardrums if they're listening. So we got 77.71. That should be good enough for our answer. Oh, yeah, there we go. 78 rounds 2. Looks like I'm extra generous with the margin of error. If you rounded wrong to cents, I've got you. $78 is accepted. $77 to $79 would be accepted, apparently.
Could you do also another open answer for like this survey?
Yeah, let's go find one of those. Does that work? Is it good? Okay, no problem. So here's a question. It's a direct method question. We can do an open answer direct method and try and find an open answer. Oh, step down. Right here. This is it. No, this is also direct. Well, anyway, we got a preference for one of these two? Either one's fine? Okay. All right, so this one right here, I've already eliminated some of the distractor information here for you. Since the question system is asking for service department A's allocation to X, I just include A's services as they're consumed by these other departments. So Since it's the direct method, we can pretty quickly, here, open answer, service department question. We can solve this, I think pretty quickly here. Eyeballing it, you can see that X and Y consume the same amount, 35% of Department A's services, which means that once we ignore the 30% of services that A does for B, the remaining percentages are 50-50. It's 50% of its production department work is done for X, 50% is done for Y. That's 0.35 divided by the sum of 0.35 and 0.35 will give us 50%. So we get to multiply the costs of Department A by the 50%, and that's our allocation from A to X. And just for consistency, I always like to write in what we're looking for. No, stop it. I know we're going for A to X. All right. Is this one any more complex? Maybe a little bit. It's asking for, we did this kind of problem before. We did department-wise total cost, which is going to be its initial costs plus whatever A is distributing to it, allocating to it, and whatever B is allocating to it. A is going to be allocating, looks like to Y, 60% over 80%. So 60 over 80, that's 3 over 4, 3/4 of A's 403,000 is going to be allocated. So add 3/4 of that to 958. And B is going to allocate 20 over, looks like 80% total. So that's 1/4. 20 over 80 is 1/4. So 1/4 of the 596,573 here is going to be added to 958,540 to get total department-wide costs. So let's do that just very quickly here, since I've already got the percentages easily enough. So that's 0.75, 0.25. Right, we're going to Y. Yeah. So we need to sum the original plus these allocations. So that should be our answer for this one. Hopefully, when I go quickly through the problem, hopefully that doesn't make you feel bad if you're not following along as closely as you like. Hopefully it makes you feel confident that, these can be done pretty quickly. Some of these, if you cut out the extraneous information, you focus on just what you need to, you can just hit the stuff that you need. That's my hope there. Questions on these? I think the one thing we haven't really touched on is an open answer step down question. I see some nods, like maybe we want to see that. All right. All right. So this one is asking for Department B to Department X, and Department B is the bottom step, the down step department. Okay, so A is going to allocate to B first, and then, among other things, and then B is going to allocate to X. Sorry, I just want to make sure it's clear what's going on. All right, let's copy over our costs, save ourselves a little bit of time with that. And also, we'll copy over, just to be consistent. I know I'm going to need to know A's allocation to B. I'm going to need then be able to figure out B's allocation to X. That's what I need. Now, remember, the reason we need to know A to B is because we're going to change B's cost. This is B's initial costs. I say that, I want to emphasize that because inevitably that's something that gets forgotten in the process here, is that we're going to update this. Some of this 525,000 is going to be allocated and added to the 728,000. So that when then B distributes to X, it's this amount times the percent of consumption that X has of B's services. All right, so B consumes 20% of A's services, and we can just leave that 20% without refiguring it at all. So this is 0.2. This is percent for B, percent A to B, percent for A to B. So 20% of this 525,000 ish. That is A to B. So new B. There we go. New B costs are 833,000 and change. So now B's, we're gonna act like this doesn't happen. Act like this didn't. None of the service happened because that's up step. B can't allocate anything to service department A. It's the upstep service department, and so we're just gonna figure 60% out of this 80% of what's left of the work that's left. So that ends up being again 75% because we just did that. We just did that right here. That is percent for B to X. So that's meaning that's X's consumption of the remaining consumption we're considering. So we can multiply those costs to get our B to X. Good. Maybe I should rewrite the textbook so that something a little more exciting is at the end of the course here. I find it exciting, but I chose to teach this for a career, so I'm kind of weird. Maybe exciting isn't the right word even for me. I find interesting things about it. Oh, there we go. Maybe I'm not as weird as I made myself out to be when I said it was exciting. All right, well, we will do this. Yeah, give me a second. Okay, we will go ahead and we will do student view. We'll go to modules. We'll go down here to final exam review quiz, and we'll start it. And look, we completed our task of starting it on Wednesday today, and we'll finish it on Monday. Is that okay? I think maybe we stick with chapter 10 for today and focus on that. Finish out that last chapter level quiz on Friday. On Monday, we'll take a shot at as many of these questions as we can get through, and any requests that you have to review as well. And then we've got, like I said, next Wednesday, and then during finals week, that time, which is Monday, 2:30 to 4:30. Monday, Wednesday here. There. We will treat that as office hours. Okay. I think it'll maintain the same draw too. So thank you very much. That's the end of the video, the class today. Thanks.